Guys, welcome to part 2 for my moon base and rovers tutorial. This one's going to be in relation to how do we actually get these wonderful things into space. Now, first thing, I'd like to thank you guys for fixing the mistake I said in my first one. The manned modules, it's not that they don't need electricity, they do. It was my mistake. The only reason why they take a longer time because they actually have a larger storage of electricity. So for example, if you look at my this one, electricity charge 1600, but that's because I have a lot of batteries. If I move to this one without all my batteries, I think this 3-pod capsule has 150 cell storage of electricity, while your unmanned I think has 5 units only, and your 3 capsule manned has 150 units. So both cases, if you're unmanned or manned, make sure that you supply it with batteries so you can store it, and make sure to supply it with solar panels so you can recharge it. Again, of course, don't open your solar panels while you're in movement or while you're in the atmosphere, because then it'll just tear off. Now let's get back to this tutorial. This is the part 2 in terms of how do you send your components into space. Well, that's sort of a little bit tricky in terms of how to send your components into space. First thing I told you is you got to watch part 1. And the second thing, once you're done with your actual vehicle assembly building, what you're going to need to do is then go to your directory, which is not VAB, the other one. You got to go to your directory where you actually installed your actual vehicles. You know, for example, the DM tug, and you can see the DM tug, and let's say I have my radio tower as well. And then I'm gonna copy my DM tug and radio tower from the actual directory and move it towards, copy it, and then paste it in my actual space. Let's go back. Then copy it into my vehicle assembly building. It means from the directory of the space hangar, I'm gonna move it to my VAB directory. So let's get that done now. So let's go to our computer. We're obviously, since it's Steam, we're going to go to the Steam directory, which is here. Then we go to Steam, then we go to Steam apps, and then common, then Kerbal space program. We're going to go to the saves, and then we're going to go to AMG tutorials, ships, and SPAH. So I did want the habitat capsule, the space, and the tug. So we're going to copy these, and then we're going to paste them in our actual spaceship directory, so they appear there. So that's pretty cool. I think the future updates will actually allow you to move it within the actual hangars themselves. And now we just load back up the game. And now once we're back in our game, we should start up, of course, our game, load up our saved game, which is AMG tutorials, and then we go to our vehicle assembly building, or non-vehicle, whatever, rocket assembly building, whatever the hell it's called. And this should appear here. As you see, I do have my DM tower, and I should have my tugboat. You see it's here as well, and it loads up in my actual rocket hangar, which is pretty cool. Now, for to get things into space, if it's a nicely symmetrical, for example, a small unit like this, again, remember, when you are moving stuff, make sure you always select the actual capsule itself. Yes, so for a small structure such as this, if I am trying to move this, the easiest thing to do, of course, would be to have rockets moving under it. Now, let's then do this. It would be really nice if I could actually open these. And then again, just for the engineering purposes, I can switch that. So if you're having some small, you can say rovers, maybe this is a little bit larger rover, but this is more of a refuel rover slash thing. The cool thing is what I did with this, I made a lot of generators, so I don't really need to recharge my actual batteries as much, and that I can keep moving with it, so that's pretty cool. And of course a little bit of fuel, so I can go and refuel my actual ships themselves. So this is why I designed it the way I designed it. Anyways, let's not waste time with that. That's one. And now why you say I'm doing this, you're going to see why I'm doing this. That's 2, and that's 3, and now the same thing I can either do what I'm going to do, of course, so I can deattach it. I'm going to deattach it here, so There we go. And now I'm just going to spin it around. It should attach though. It doesn't attach, really? Okay. Well, if it doesn't attach, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a decoupler. Simple as that. So here we go. Let's quickly put the decoupler. Where is it? That's a big ass decoupler. Yeah, why the hell not? Okay, decoupler, and then this here. Now, again, remember, this is a smaller one, so I'm pretty sure that it is that the weight is symmetrical on both sides. Now, this is very important when you are pushing your things into space. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, and the second thing, of course, you got to understand is how you're transporting it there. As mentioned before, am I going to transport this as a whole ship? It means it's going to launch into space, and then from space I'm going to transport it to my target planet. You know, or if not, do I have already interplanetary tug ship in space that'll dock on to my actual target rover or my target, you know, base component, and then move that to that planet? If so, then you got to design it in such a way that it does affect it. But anyways, this is how I'm going to discuss how to get the stuff into space. So to get something like this into space, it would be, of course, built like this. And I would presume that the weight is sort of symmetrical. I might have a little bit of additional weight on the actual forward side. If we do look at the actual, hold on, center of mass, you do see it's a little bit more towards that side. So maybe I could put, you know, maybe one booster on this side, maybe one fuel tank on this side, you know, just to balance it out a little bit more, you know. And of course I would obviously put more struts between this and the other tanks around it, because obviously this alone won't be able to get this up into the air. So this is in relation to pushing this into the air. Now the same principle applies if, for example, the radio tower. I'd pretty much do the same thing. If I don't want to get this radio tower into the air, it's actually pretty easy. So hold on, let's just get that back up again by the capsule. Okay. Okay, so same thing. I'd put a decoupler at the bottom. I'd put maybe a large double tank on the way down. I'd put maybe a smaller tank. I'd put a decoupler here. I'd stick a large tank. Hold on. Like this, I could split it up, and like that I could deliver it, and of course I'd have more tanks around this with an asparagus system to deliver this into space. Again, the advantage of this is that it is pretty much centered. Now if this is going to wobble, what I could do is what I did pick off from Dennis's build, actually, which was a pretty smart thing. I could put the tip, a decoupler, and maybe two RCS tanks at the top, and then I have RCS thrusters at the top to stop this from shaking at the top as well. You know, so that is a pretty nifty trick as well. And like that, you can pretty much push this up into space. Now, the tricky part is when you actually make components that are very, very, you can say, not actually balanced out. Now unfortunately I didn't load the modded section, so let me just load the modded section and let's take a look at Dennis's ship and crane itself. So now I loaded up the actual modded one, and now for example what would happen if you would load something a little bit more out of the normally, out of the ordinary, out of the normally, what is that supposed to mean? Out of the ordinary, such as a crane, because the crane has obviously a mass distributed on different sides of the actual structure itself. So what you would do, this is one of my previous attempts of trying to balance this out, but again horizontally isn't the most effective because you never know if it's to the left or a little bit to the right. So what I would recommend is, why don't you just double it? That's something that hold on, let's just reload it again. Try to double the crane, because when you do double symmetry for the crane and you do it from both opposite sides, you do have a much greater chance of it being successful. Let me show you what I mean. So we're gonna go like that, we're gonna stick it like that, okay, and then we'll obviously stick that there. And now what I meant by doubling the actual crane is, obviously this would be a longer fuel tank, but this is just for you can say testing or showing off purposes, just to show you guys what exactly I mean. So what I would do is I would actually double this. So I'd put double symmetry. I'd click let's I can't actually double that. That was the weirdest thing ever. That was the weirdest thing ever. So what you do is you'd actually double the component itself and then attach it from both sides. So you'd have one from here and then you'd have another one from here. And because of the weight that it's symmetrical, then it pretty much stays the same. Now the same principle applies to anything else. If you're having a difficulty that the actual ship itself is you know, moving towards one side or going towards the other side or something like that, and especially if you have like some really funky ship, for example, such structures as these, they're very easy. You can pretty much mount them right on top of any ship. So for example, I'd grab this, I'd stick that there, and then I'd stick obviously a crap load of you know, rockets from below it, and then I just push this vertically up. But you know, when you have a different structure, such as I told you, such as the tug ship or anything else, because there's a lot of different the weight isn't pretty much centered and is distributed on different parts, it might be difficult. The easiest thing is to make a symmetry of the actual item itself, you know, of the actual item, make a symmetrical item, and then just try to double the actual, make a dual item of it, double it. Hold on, let's grab the actual thing. Make a dual item, and then send that up to space. So let's let me just show you. Let me actually try to get an example. Unfortunately, I gotta mount it on something. This is the problem with. It's fine. We just need to get. Okay, so we would have that, and then what I'd do is I'd maybe have, I'd stick it to the side. So what I would do is I'd have a decoupler. Where's the damn thing? One of the sticking out decouplers, there we go. I'd stick that there. Hold on, we do need to get it stuck to it somehow. Okay, great. So we got that stuck to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to remove all this excess stuff, of course. And now we're going to grab the thing and we're going to rotate it. And hopefully it should stick to it. Well, well, at least now you see what I'm trying to do. Yeah. Well, you see what I'm trying to do. So what you do is you'd obviously build that up there, or you can actually rebuild your structure, you rebuild your actual unit there. Now unfortunately it doesn't really work as easy as possible, but you'd have obviously one of the rovers over here and then the other one over here. Now unfortunately, because you loaded this from the actual vehicle assembly building, your symmetry is pretty much loading from the vehicle assembly building. That's why you have your symmetry like this, which is unfortunate. Maybe in the future patches that won't happen. So I'd have one rover up here and then I'd have one rover down here. So let's just pretend that I had my rover here and my rover here. So then pretty much what I'd do is I'd make a decoupler at the bottom, and then I'd have obviously a crap load of orange tanks at the bottom with my asparagus systems that will pretty much launch the whole thing into space. And that's in relation to how to launch your rovers and structures and all the different things of sizes. That's about it, you know. If you think it's off balance, if you think the structure's weird, obviously you can stick it try to stick it on top, you know, reinforce it with a lot of struts towards the center or towards the bottom. So if I'd stick this, let's say at the bottom here somewhere, you know, let's just throw it anywhere. If this would be on top of that, you know, then I'd have a lot of struts either going down to this, or I'd have a lot of struts going down to the tanks around it to keep it stable. And if that doesn't help and you still realize this balance, then make a duplicate, have two of them on each side of the actual rocket, and send that up into space. And if you still have problems with that, what I would suggest you do is you send me an email at addmegamers@addmegamers.com, or go to my website addmegamers.com and there's a contact me forum with. It actually supports now file attachments, and you can just send me the thing and tell me, hey Dan, look, take a look at this. I'm having troubles sending this into space. Figure some solution out for me and I'll figure it out. Now again, keep in mind, you're gonna have to let me know, and you're gonna have to concentrate and realize that your design is pretty much gonna be based on how you want to send that ship there. If you want it a one-way, if you want the ship to be a complete one-way ship, let's say to Joel, it's gonna be one massive ass ship. If you just wanted to get it into orbit, and then you have another ship that tugs it into Joel's orbit, and then you have another ship from Joel's orbit that specializes in just pulling that down to the actual surface, or maybe to the moon. So you know, I'd have a tugboat in space in Kerbal's orbit that would just dock onto this component, pull it to the moon's orbit, and then I'd have a special ship designed specifically to be able to drop this on the actual moon. So you'd have various tugboats. Now of course the tugboats, let's take a look. The tugboats are pretty much looking the same. So the tugboats, what they will consist of usually is you're gonna have something like this. Let me just do something really quick so I don't spend a lot of time on it. I don't want to make my tutorials long. So you're gonna have a tugboat will pretty much consist of something like this. Obviously it's not gonna be such a rough example, but actually, you know what, hold on, I'm gonna load up a tugboat and I'll show you guys. So here it is. This is one of a sort of designed tugboat. Now this sort of tugboat you need to design to keep it in space. Now of course this tugboat would be the best delivery system from your target planet to the surface of your target planet. So pretty much what would happen, I would fly in with my ship that would bring in the component, and then I would dock, then I would jump into this ship, and this ship would pretty much snap on the component that I want to land on the actual surface, and then I would obviously use the ship with my attached component, which would be the rover or whatever component or habitat module, and then I would use it to land. Now again, this method means I'll be landing with the component below. So in case I'm landing on zero gravity, I gotta make sure that I have the component somehow, which is much easier on zero gravity, that I lower the component slowly, and then maybe I have this on an action group, and then I can just above the ground, I can decouple the actual what the hell are they called? The separators, or no, not the separators, I don't know what the hell it's called, I keep forgetting the damn names. And then I can decouple the actual docking ports. Okay, then I can decouple the docking ports, and the component will slowly obviously fall towards the ground because there's zero gravity. Now this is the best delivery system for zero gravity. Now of course the bigger the component you have, the bigger the arches you're gonna have to make, so you have more space so it doesn't actually hit the engines. Now of course if it's an atmosphere, I think you could use the same system again, but again keep in mind that every component you're going to be delivering with this system, it means the component itself is going to have a docking port stuck to it. So keep that again in mind. It all depends on how you want to design it, how you want it to work. If you want to use this system, then understand that each component will have a docking port when it hits the actual planet. It means all your components on the ground will have docking ports, which means it also isn't the most effective way. So maybe it's better to send up, you know, a couple of modules together and then throw them down. Or what you could do is actually have maybe on your component somehow designed, another thought, somehow on your component what you could do is you could design that it would have, let's just jump to my tugboat, it would have somewhere, I don't know, let's just say somewhere it would have a decoupler, you know, it would have a massive, let's say, decoupler, okay, and from within that decoupler, exactly, see now that decoupler would be probably attached to that ship itself, you know. So what I would do is I'd send it with a decoupler. The decoupler, I think it's possible I should be able to attach also what is it, a docking port. Yes, it is possible. Okay, so this is the perfect thing. So this solution would solve it. Obviously you'd have to figure out how to design it in a way that obviously the balance is out and the perfect location is out. So again, your design of your component itself will be also based in terms of how you want to deliver it and how efficiently you want to deliver it. I just like to deliver it as efficiently as possible, so I don't want any leftover components from transports there. So this would be the best way. So pretty much I would then decouple, it would land, and then I would decouple, I mean the ports, and then I'd land, and then I'd actually use my decoupler and I'd get rid of the port itself, and then like that I'd just have a clean component on the actual atmosphere itself. So a lot of things you have to factor in terms of how you want to deliver it. It's not the question, yeah, I showed you how to send it into space, you know, sending it into space, that's the easy part, and now the question is how you want to deliver it. You don't mind delivering it with a lot of, you know, docking ports on it. Each component will have a docking port on it, or you want to deliver it as a couple of modules together, you know, which means you'll have less docking ports on it, but still you will have some, or you want to deliver it separately and individually. And if you want to deliver it separately, individually, each small little component you have without your actual modules, so you're going to have to figure out how to do that. Now, another thing I'd also maybe recommend is maybe you could have your I don't know, decoupler with maybe a fuel tank on top, and then the actual docking port on top. So like that, you have a little bit of additional fuel when you're carrying your thing, so you can maybe transfer some of that as well. You know, maybe you don't have to decouple when you land. You'll still have that extra fuel tank, and then you can maybe refuel the tank, and then you can ditch the tank somewhere. So again, it all depends up to you. I hope you guys learned quite a lot from this. It is a lot of things do need to come into terms of how you want to design and how you want to make it, how you'd like to deliver it, what your delivery systems are, if you have a one-shot ship going directly to your target, or if you already have a separate delivery systems for everywhere that you'd like to go to. And that tug little ship that I showed you from interplanetary to your actual surface is the standard default ship most of the people pretty much use. Of course, if it's atmosphere, you can't use the nuclear engines, you're going to have to use much stronger engines. But then if it's the atmosphere, maybe you'll have, you know, one-use disposable, you know, delivery rockets, you know, that you'll send into the orbit, refuel them with your tanker, attach it to your actual target component, you know, and then that would like come down to Earth, you know, or come down to an atmosphere planet, you know, burn up all its fuel, have a lot of parachutes, you deliver the system, and that would be the end of the delivery system. Then it would crash and burn. You understand? You know, so again, you have to put all these things in mind in terms of how you want to deliver it to make it as efficient as possible. And that's pretty much it. Happy gaming, take care, don't forget to send me an email in case you have problems in terms of your delivery, and I'll make another Q&A. Bye.